This week's lesson is stir frying, and we're going to do a beef stir fry with brown rice. Now you could also use noodles if you want, you could also use chicken. It's quite a flexible, adaptable recipe. So what I'm doing this afternoon is just the vegetables that I have available to me, but you can use anything that you might have in your fridge. So we're going to use some lovely sirloin beef, which is a lovely tender cut of meat, and I have put some of that in a marinade already of 5-spice powder, and that is to give it just a little bit of flavour and to help tenderise. If you were making this well in advance, you could put in all these ingredients, the sweet and the acidic ingredients, and leave the meat to absorb all the flavours, but we're just going with the 5-spice. Then the vegetables we're using are some tender stem broccoli, I'm using a carrot, I'm using some sweet corn, some onion and a red and orange pepper. Those are our main vegetables, which are a nice contrasting colour. Then we're going to use for flavour a thumb of ginger, which we're going to peel and grate, a clove of garlic, which we're going to peel and grate later. So that's for flavour. And then our sauce at the end is going to be made up from freshly squeezed orange juice, 2 tablespoons of soy sauce and 2 tablespoons of sweet chilli sauce. And then the other ingredient we need is our brown rice, and you need to weigh out about 65 grams of rice per person, and then you use twice that per person in water. Now the equipment we need for cooking our dish this afternoon is laid out here. So we need a tablespoon for measuring out our sauce ingredients, we need a peeler, we need an implement for tossing the meat in the pan, we need a knife for vegetables and for meat. I'm going to use this for tossing the ingredients in the pan, and you also will need a grater, or if you have a garlic crusher, but I'm going to use a grater later. You also need to cook this, just not very much equipment. You need a wok, you need a saucepan for the rice, a wok for draining it later, you can have a jug for measuring the water, and I've also left a plate over there on the side so we can take out the meat when it's cooked, just so it doesn't start stewing on us. One of the things you do to begin this dish is you need to put on the rice, because we're using brown rice and it takes about 30 minutes to cook. So we have 65 grams per person measured out by 4 for 4 people. That means we need about 500 mils of water. So we'll remove our colander that we will use later, add in the rice, and into that we're going to add in 500 millilitres of boiling water. You bring that up to the boil and then you leave it simmering for about 30 minutes. We're going to start off with the preparation of the meat. So when you're choosing meat in Ireland, you look for this quality mark, and that's the Bord Bia quality mark, saying that this meat has been produced on a quality farm. So to look at our meat in detail, you'll get little pieces like this, and if you look very closely at the structure of the meat, you'll see that there are fibres that run up and down on this, and that's called the grain, and those are the little meat fibres. If we cut along those, the meat is going to be very tough. So you need to identify where the long grains are, and then you need to cut across them. So you take off any excess meat off the edge, and then we're going to cut across the long fibres to get short little even sized strips from this. Okay, and we'll add them to our bowl that we've already cut into our 5-spice powder. And you can do the same with the other piece of meat. Just make sure you can identify the long fibres and cut across them. And remember always, after handling raw meat, that you need to use a separate chopping board if you're going on to cook vegetables. So I'm going to leave this in the sink for later. I have washed my hands in the meantime. So I'm going to mix in the beef that I cut there a minute ago in with the marinade. Now you'd be doing this all together if you were cooking this as a dinner. So we're going to leave that aside to infuse for a few minutes while we're getting on with the preparation of the vegetables. We're going to start off with the preparation of the tender stem broccoli. Now I've already prepared some of this, so there's very little involved in this. You just need to cut off some of those long stalks, and as we always do previously, you cut all the pieces so they're in similar size so that they will all be cooked at the same time. And we'll just pop those in there ready to add to the pan later. The next vegetable we will do is the carrot. So I have already peeled this carrot, and in preparation for this we're just going to cut it at a nice angle. And again, we're going to cut all the pieces the same size. Now this comes with practice, and you need to practice your knife skills to get all of these all equal in size. That's our carrot prepared. Then we're going to do our sweet corn. Again, there's very little involved in this. I've cut some already. All you need to do is cut off the very outermost pieces and cut these into equal size pieces like this. And if the tips of these are in any way discoloured or that, just take them off. That's our sweet corn prepared. And then our onion, again, that's very simple. So you just need half an onion. We're going to take off the top. We're going to just cut a little slit down here to help making the removal of that skin a little bit easier. So just take out the outermost layer. And then you need to have a bin beside your workstation so you can put all your peelings into. And then we're going to just cut across to make slices out of that. And that's your onion prepared. The preparation of the pepper then, we're just going to take out this stalk on the end. So just cut around that, and the seeds should come out quite easily with that. And then we're just going to cut this into strips, or you can cut them into pieces. It's really just to do with appearance. So that is the red one done, and you just do exactly the same thing with the yellow one. And if there's any excess membrane, just you can remove that as well. And again, just cut that into even slices. To prepare the ginger then, we're going to just cut off a piece at the front and then get a peeler, or you can cut it with a knife if you don't have a peeler at hand. And you just take off the outer layer, and then you can just grate this. And you can put the garlic and the ginger together because they're added to the pan at the same time. So then just get your grater and grate that in there. Continue on until you've got a decent piece of that ginger removed. So we've taken about half of that now, which is about fine. Oh, the smell from the ginger is absolutely beautiful. That's roast fresh ginger. It's really just lovely. And then get the pieces you don't need. Then the garlic, cut off the top and the bottom. And remove the skin. And then you again just, and if there are any little discoloured parts, just remove them. And again, you can just grate that in with the ginger. Now, if you don't have a grater, you can just use your knife and chop this up into small, tiny little pieces. So the flavours now are really beginning to come out from this dish. Now that we've the garlic and the ginger and the onion prepared. So they're all ready now to go into the pan. The last thing we have to do is just to squeeze the orange. So we'll show you how to do that now. To prepare the orange then, there's really only one way of cutting an orange if you're going to squeeze it, and that is from the North Pole to the South Pole around the equator. Remember, if you're going to be putting it on a juicer, it has to have the same shape as the dome on the juicer. So you just pop it on top and squeeze it. Right, so this is what the rice looks like when we have it simmering. It's not boiling madly, it's just what we call simmer. So we're just going to leave that and time it for 30 minutes. Then we're going to add some cooking oil to a hot pan. And you need a really hot pan for stir frying. And there's a term that's used called wok hai. And wok hai is the flavour or the compounds that you can smell when you're frying these beautiful aromatic compounds at high temperature. So to check the pan, you can just put in a little piece of meat and see, does it sizzle? If you get it sizzled, that's right. Now the other way is you can wait until it's absolutely almost at flash point, but we're not going to do that today. This is quite hot. We're going to toss this around. until you get it nice and brown, and you need to keep moving it so that it doesn't stew. And that's why you need a nice hot pan. Oh, look at that beautiful browning that's happening. And you need to get this done as quickly as you can. When the meat is nicely browned all over and you see there's some juice in the pan, it's time to take that off now, because you don't want the meat to stew. Because we're trying to keep it tender. If you stew the meat, it will get very tough. So remove that off to the side. And we're now going to put on the vegetables. Okay, so you add the vegetables in the sequence in which they're going to cook. We're going to add the onion, garlic and ginger to release some of these aromatic compounds again. So maybe you can turn down the temperature a small little bit at this stage, and we'll get those to start caramelising and release their lovely fragrances. Oh gosh, there's a beautiful smell from that now. So we'll give those a minute or two just to soften, saute them a little bit. We don't want them to change colour or brown, we just want them to soften to release the fragrance from them. Now to help the onions to sweat, if you want you can add in some of that juice that you removed off with the beef earlier. So those onions are nice and soft now, and they're giving off lovely flavour with the ginger and garlic. So the next vegetable that takes the longest to cook is the carrot, so we'll add that in now. And again add in more juice to help to steam those vegetables and cook them through. Because a lot of the flavour compounds from the meat and some of the nutrition from the meat has come out with the juice, so add that back in, we don't want to lose any of it. So leave the carrot to stir fry for a minute or two. If the pan starts drying out due to evaporation at any stage, just keep adding back in more of that juice that you removed off of the steak. So the carrots are probably al dente now, they're slightly with a crunch but softened. So we're going to add in the sweet corn next, and we're also going to add in the peppers next. And you just toss those around now to cook them. And as I said, add in more juice if needs be. You give those about 2 or 3 minutes, tossing all the time at that nice high temperature. Lastly then we're going to add the broccoli, because it doesn't require much cooking at all. And now look what it has done to the pan. The colours are just beautiful. We've a lovely contrast between the red and green, the orange, the yellow, and now it's really beginning to look very attractive. So again, I'm going to stir fry the broccoli for just about a minute, and then we'll be ready to add the meat back in and all of our sauce ingredients. We're ready now to add in back the meat that we removed earlier, and we're nearly finished the dish at this stage. We now need to add in the orange juice. And again, you might need to turn up your temperature here, right up. That's the orange juice, soy sauce, and the sweet chili sauce. And this is going to give a really, really lovely, rich flavour. Now, it's optional, as I said to you at the beginning. If you'd like to add some texture in the form of some crunch, you can add in some cashew nuts. But again, take note of who's going to be eating this, that there are no nut allergies. So you toss those in as well. And now it's just a matter of bringing this to the end of cooking, just to make sure the meat is piping hot. But you don't want it to stew. And you want all the vegetables to retain their lovely, bright, fresh colours, and also retain all the vitamins and minerals. So there's this week's class on stir fry with our brown rice, and that has beautiful colours and textures in it, and from start to finish you should get that done in about half an hour, the same time as it takes to cook the brown rice. And that is a really, really good dish and a good skill to have to be able to do a successful stir fry. So have a go with that this week for homework and enjoy it, and I hope that your families enjoy another nutritious meal that you've stirred up for them this week. Thank you. See you again.